गोपीजनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन जय व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन जय व्रज जनरंजन यमुनातीरावनचारी जय कुंज विहारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा माई सुदर्शन जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा माई सुदर्शन जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव Jai Subhadra Maya Sudarshan Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagam Nayana Patagam 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 Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha Radha Madhava Radha Sandhi Hari Radha Sandhi Radha Sandhi Hari Sri Radhe Radha Sandhi Hari Radha Sandhi Radha Sandhi Hari Sri Radhe Jaya Radha Rama Radha Rama Radha Sundara Sri Radhe Radha Rama Radha 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 Sundara Sri Radhe Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Sri Radhe Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Sri Radhe Radha Krishna Chandra Radha Krishna Chandra Radha Krishna Chandra Sri Radhe Radha Krishna Chandra Radha Krishna Chandra Radha Krishna Chandra Sri Radhe Radha Madan Gopal Radha Madan Gopal Radha Madan Gopal Sri Radhe Radha Madan Gopal Sri Radha Madan Radha Madan Gopal Sri Radhe Jaya Gauranga 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 Jaya Gauranga Jaya Gauranga 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 Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya शिल प्रभुपाद की जय पतित पावन शिल प्रभुपाद की जय Hare Krishna. Welcome all devotees for Thursday Srimad Bhagavatam Zoom platform associated with ISKCON Seshadripuram. So today we will be discussing 41st shloka of 14th chapter of 4th canto. Very interesting story of King Vena, and then King Pruthud's story will follow. So we will discuss those topics shortly. नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृतं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुं मिलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदाम्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं शीघ्रं श्रीयुतपदकमलं शीघ्रं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तप्तजीवं साद्वैतं सार्वभौतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I am projecting the shloka shortly. I will read the shloka. Give me 2 minutes. Okay. Reborn. 41st shloka, 14th chapter, 4th canto. ब्राह्मणः समुद्रक शांतो दीनानां समुपेक्षकाः स्रवते ब्रह्म तस्यापि भिन्न भाण्डात्पयो यथाः। Word to word translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Brahmanaha abrahmana samadruk equipoise. Shantaha peaceful. Dinanam the poor. Samupekshaha grossly neglecting. Sravate diminishes. Brahma spiritual power. Tasya is api certainly. Bhinna bhandat from the crack. Bhinna bhandat from the crack pot. Paya water. Yataha just as. Translation. The great sages began to think that although Brahmana is peaceful and impartial because he is equal to everyone, it is still not his duty to neglect poor humans. By such a neglect, a Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes, just as water kept in cracked pot leaks out. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Brahmanas, the topmost section of human society, are mostly devotees. They are generally unaware of happenings within the material world because they are always busy in their activities for spiritual advancement. Nonetheless, when there is calamity in human society, they cannot remain impartial. If they do not do something to relieve the distress condition of human society, it is said that due to such a neglect, their spiritual knowledge diminishes. Although all the sages go to the Himalayas for their personal benefit, but the Prahlad Maharaj said that he did not want liberation alone. He decided to wait until he was able to deliver all the fallen souls of the world. In the elevated condition, the Brahmanas are called Vaishnavas. There are two types of Brahmanas, namely Brahmana Pandit and Brahmana Vaishnava. A qualified Brahmana is naturally very learned, but when his learning is advanced in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes a Brahmana Vaishnava. Unless one becomes Vaishnava, one's perfection of Brahmanical culture is incomplete. The saintly persons considered very wisely that although King Vena was very sinful, he was born in family descending from Dhruva Maharaj. Therefore, the semen of in his family must be protected by Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava. As such, the sages wanted to take some steps to relieve situation. For want of king, everything was being disturbed and turned topsy-turvy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ब्राह्मणा समुद्रक शांतो दीनानां समुपेक्षः प्रेक्षकाः श्रवते ब्रह्म तस्यापि भिन्न भाण्डात्पयो यथाः. The great sage began to think that although Brahmana is peaceful and impartial because he is equal to everyone, it is still not his duty to neglect pure humans. By such neglect, a Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes, be just as water kept in cracked pot leaks out. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमदे जयपताका स्वामिनिति नामे नमो आचार्य पदाय निताय कृपा प्रदायिने गौरकथा धमदाय नगर ग्राम तारिणे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमदे भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नामस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so King Vena, as we discussed, he is coming in the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj. We discussed Dhruva Maharaj story. I'm just briefly, sort of recalling the discussion, recalling the story. And after Dhruva Maharaj, there are many generations. And then King Anga comes. King Anga did not have son, but he prayed. He did a lot of austerity, and Lord gave him the son, that is King Vena. But it turned out to be demon, although in the position of Kshatriya, which is supposed to be devotee or pious person, but he turned out to be demon. That is the way material world works. Lord, it's Lord's another way of showing the mercy to Lord Anga. I mean, King Anga. He wanted son, he would have got attached to him. Kingdom, son, these are all material things. Ultimately, he gave him the son where he got completely rich, and he said, oh, what is the son? What type of son I got? And then he leaves for the forest and get liberated. King Vena story continues. He was a hypocrite, demon. Citizens were never happy because he was a lot of, sort of putting a lot of taxes on them and basically injustice to them, exploiting the citizens. This was bit not. This was bit atypical in that ages. It was in it might be Satyoga that ages. Kali Yuga, this is not very typical. This is very typical in Kali Yuga. This is not atypical. This is very common in Kali Yuga. Administrators, powerful people in the society exploiting the humans, I mean the citizens, subjects, is not new. That's what it happens. But that time it was very unusual. And they were very pious Brahmanical or Vaishnava kings. This was a bit odd. So the atrocities of the king continued on the citizens. They were really overwhelmed and they were absolutely not very happy. So and then the story further continues. We are not going to discuss the whole story today, obviously, but the story goes further. Then Brahmanas were to kill this King Vena. I mean, this is in earlier slokas because Brahmanas took the charge. So in that context, Prabhupada explains Indian purport, and this sloka also is coming in that context, that Brahmanas ultimately killed King Vena by power of sounds. They did not use any weapon. That's mentioned in the earlier slokas. And Brahmanas were powerful. Brahmanas were powerful. They know how to use the material energy for good, for the benefit of human society. And it was science based. So the shloka mentions earlier that they killed King Vena because he was demon. And citizens and the whole praja, whole society would have got collapsed. Brahmana didn't want it. They did not want it. So they killed him by the sounds, by pronouncing various types of sounds. They killed him. His body was lying. His mother Sunita was very aggrieved. She kept his body and preserved with the help of some chemicals or some salt and then some power of sound. Again, power of sound comes here. If you see the whole Vedic knowledge and Vedic Puranas, use of sound for various tasks, various purposes, very common. And it's a very deep, subtle science. Of course, it's a material science, but we claim in modern society, so-called modern science, oh, we are so advanced in scientific knowledge. But that's not true. We are in fact very gross, if you really see. We are very gross. For example, these various shlokas say they use the sound to preserve the bodies, to kill the bodies, to do a lot of homa, yajnas, with a different sound, different results, different context. And it was at massive scale. Sound was used to kill in the battlefield, also in the wars, everywhere. So precisely and very perfect on the target. Of course, currently also we are using sound. Generally, we use sound for hearing something, or and there are some ultrasound and sonication technologies coming. Of course, sound is being used, but at a very gross level. It's not so precise also, and it's very gross because we are all scientists. We can understand all that. Sound was used to shower the rain also that time. Where is sound currently being used? But of course, there are sound therapies. So it's not that we don't know the use of the sound, but it's very gross level. But modern scientists are proud of it, which is need not be, because Vedic sciences use this, in fact, but it's very subtle level. They were at subtle level, sound and mind. And mantra also came. Mantra, like we use the word mantra, and by mantra healing also is there nowadays. And I mean, it's not nowadays, it was continuing since ages. And use of sound. And we also see if you use some mantra, it gives some psychological healing. Of course, I'm not talking about Mahamantra. Mahamantra is beyond all this. Mahamantra is transcendental. I'm talking about normal mantras, so-called mantras or so-called sound therapies. They use some particular frequency of sound and use the pleasing, and then we get healing of the psychological level, mental level. Mahamantra is beyond all this. Mahamantra includes everything. Mahamantra includes all your ultrasound, all your material sounds, all your spirit, and then transcendental also. It is only the Lord. It is the Lord. Mahamantra is non-different than Lord. It is more powerful than Lord. So we should not try to interpret Mahamantra in this way. Oh, there is some sound energy there and it will give me some healing. That is offense. For the devotees understand this. But I'm just telling the example. So Mahamantra includes everything. It includes all demigods, mantras, Vedic mantras, everything. This I was listening in some of the devotees' lecture. So Mahamantra is a transcendental thing. It's coming from spiritual world. Directly it connects to Lord. It's Lord himself. So it's very powerful. We should not compare Mahamantra with this sort of sound therapy. But we are just discussing the topic where the sound was used on a material level also to produce different results. That's a discussion point here. So King Vena's body was preserved by her mother. But after the disappearance, after the killing of King Vena, the thing was basically how to continue the kingdom, because there was no king. And if there is no proper king, then there will be a lot of chaos. There will be a lot of chaos. There will be a lot of chaos. And plunderers, thieves, and then all the basically criminals were set free. And it was a chaos, and it was a very bad situation. So how to control this situation was a question mark. So Brahmanas, of course, Brahmanas, as Prabhupada mentioned in this purport, now in this sloka also, where Brahmanas are generally neutral to all these society administrative affairs. They are neutral. Of course, they have got some control, but they are more inclined, or they spend maximum time in a very simple way, studying the Vedas, delivering those Vedic knowledge to the common mass of people. So they were in knowledge delivering mode. They are not into directly controlling the whole society affair or national affairs directly in administrative way. They are not in power. They are basically on the behind the power. They will control the Kshatriyas in terms of giving them knowledge, training, coaching. And basically, they are Vidwan, they are Pandits. So Brahmanas means there are two types of Brahmanas. Brahmanas Prabhupada explains. Brahmanas is ultimately Brahmana because they are in a mode of goodness, learned. They are much more higher than a common mass of people. So the Brahmanas, they have got Vedic knowledge. They know what is right, what is wrong. They are very pious, very purified. Their mind is pure, body is pure. And they are in the business of delivering the knowledge to the common mass of people so that the people progress in the spiritual knowledge. So one type of Brahmana at a very first level is basic level is he knows the Shastras, Vedas, he is very pure and they follow the rules and regulations and then continues. And they know about demigods, they worship many things. So these are Brahmanas. So basically knowledge, Pandita, knowledgeable person, Vidwan. That is also Brahmanas. But there is better Brahmana than Brahman Pandit. That is a Vaishnava Brahmana. Means they are not only Brahmanas. Vaishnava Brahmana are not only Brahmana. They are Brahmanas. They have got all the knowledge. But they have got additional qualities, additional asset of Lord's worship, devotee of the Lord, devotion. And they are very, very well versed with devotion. They are specifically focused on propagating the Lord's devotion. That's Brahmana, Vaishnava. So they are Vaishnava. The Vaishnavas are higher than Brahmanas. So some Brahmanas who are Vaishnava also, they are not Brahmana Vaishnava. Of course, when one becomes Vaishnava, they are automatically Brahman. But it's not that only Brahmanas can become Vaishnava. Anybody can be, but if you adopt the process of becoming Vaishnava, and then they can ultimately become Brahmana as well as Vaishnava. So Brahmana Vaishnavas. So there are two types of Brahmana as we discussed. In general, as what we are discussing, it's a Varnashram system. Varnashram system is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So we know, like Brahmanas means they are studying the Vedas, they are guiding those, so they are like a head. They are intellectuals, mode of goodness. They are intellectual or high level, very subtle scientist. I'm not talking about modern scientist, I'm telling the Vedic scientist. Ultimately, they should get connected to Vedic knowledge and the Lord. That is Brahman. Brahmana. Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. The person who knows about Brahma. Brahma means Lord's impersonal feature. Brahma means this knowledge. The person who knows about this Brahma, his universe, his knowledge, his God, he is called Brahman. So in general, Brahmanas are knowledgeable people and they will guide the society. They will guide the Kshatriya. They will sort out the disputes. They will put the rules and regulations, policies, and they will guide the society on the spiritual matter. So their life is simple. They doesn't get into, as I discussed, into all the day-to-day job and day-to-day all this administration, politics, and all that. But they have got a control, ultimate control, at least in those days where Varnasrama system, in Varnasrama system, control was always with Brahmanas. Not a power control, but the guide, their guide. So they had that control because they had that power. If the need arises, Brahmanas can fight. They used to fight, and they were more powerful than Kshatriya in the fighting also, if they want. They have a mind, body fully under control. Very powerful. But they use that power, they will not use that power unnecessarily wasting the time and power. They will use it only for constructive purpose, spiritual progress purpose. Kshatriyas were in charge of the society. They were do the administration, politics, military, protection of the citizens, law and order, punish the crimes, control the crime, all that. Now also similar system exists. Although Brahmana, they don't recognize Brahmana. Of course, similar system exists means it tend to exist. People don't accept this, but actually some or other we end up following the same system. Although majority people in the modern society, they don't accept this. They are demons. Even our own India, in Hindus also, many of the people, they don't accept, oh no, we don't want to belong to Varnasrama. What is this? So they are all demons under the name of whatever religion. So, but actually the Varnasrama system exists. We tend to follow in organization. There are intellectual class, top managers, leaders. They are intellectual. They guide the organization. Then there are actually administrators, control of the people, departments. They are like administrator, and then below that they are like a business, finance, and they control the whole thing. It's like similar. It's not exactly same that way, but then we can compare. Like, and then there are worker class who actually physically work because they don't have many skills, and we recruit the people based on skills. So Varnashrama system was meant for its organization. It was the organization. It's a samstha, Varnashrama system or Varna ashram based on the quality. In the phase of life, in the span of life, four ashramas, and the division of the society in the four ashramas, varnas. It is based on the quality. If somebody develop quality of Brahmana, he will become Brahmana. If he doesn't develop, he will not become Brahmana. Like that. It was not based on the birth. It ultimately got degraded into caste system, and now it's just haunting us. But that's not right. And many Brahminical religions take this advantage. They say, no, your system is casteism. It's not casteism. Casteism was there. It's a degraded form of Varnashrama system. But actually, Varnashrama system was based on the quality of the person. If he develop the quality and the purity, then he will be called as a Brahmana. Below that, fully mode of goodness and fully on the spiritual part. Kshatriyas will have mode of goodness and passion, like that. Vaishyas will have passion, ignorance, and then Shudras will have full mode of ignorance. So it's all based on the qualities and the purity one develops, and Varnashrama. So Varnashrama system was existing. Now also we tend to follow it unknowingly because that's a very natural division. Maybe now also we want organization to be run based on the quality of the people. Of course, we don't follow the Varnashrama in the sense Brahman, Kshatriya, because we don't want to. I mean, modern people, they don't want to believe in Vedic sciences. That's the unfortunate thing. But overall, we tend to follow the similar system, although we don't recognize it. The point here is, the earlier those days, Brahmanas were guiding the society. Kshatriyas will rule the society. They will control the administrative affairs. Vaishyas were busy in producing the food grains, businesses, and paraphernalia resources for survival of the human being, agriculture, farming, and then all allied businesses. Because that is needed. They will take care of cows and then milk and then milk-based products. Very, very scientific, very scientific, very scientific. And in absence, and we can understand this, since we don't follow this system by design or with the proper, proper direction. In fact, it's almost gone. We can see the bad impacts. In Kali Yuga, it is known. It is not surprising that Varnashrama system will not be followed properly. Very few will follow. It's not very surprising to know that because that's the Kali Yuga currently we are in. But we can understand as a devotee, since by Prabhupada mercy, we have got this knowledge, we have got access to this knowledge. We can understand easily why there is a chaos in the society. Because criminals, like political parties are there, criminals are there. Criminals become political people. They get into the post of the administrators there. Not all. There are good administrators also nowadays. It's not that nowadays all the administrators are bad, but there is a mix of it. So, and there are some pious people also in the administration. But many people, the criminals ends up at a big, they exploit the people, they do so much corruption. And there are so many crimes happening in the society, but necessarily we are not really in controlling these crimes. You can see that. I mean, big crime happens, and then the things get into court, and then courts continue, and then many people are, acquitted also. They were punished also, and then they said, okay, you are innocent, and we know. So it's very, important way of handling the society. That's the effect of Kali Yuga. Varnashrama system was very clear. We can understand. In the absence of good rulers, very powerful rulers, kings, very pious and good quality rulers, good intention having, the rulers having good intention. This is a chaos. There is nobody to protect the citizen, or they are all becoming criminals. And whoever is might is right. Rich people control the society, or the criminal minded or powerful people. And this is all we can see that. And there is no way it's reducing, it's increasing only. That's the impact of Kali Yuga. Of course, devotees really doesn't worry about this, because ultimately devotees are sure God will protect them. But then we should understand the technical part of it also. But by not following the Varnashrama system, what is a chaos? So root cause, so we say, yes, there is a crime in society, we should do this, but that's not going to help. People have to become godly. People have to take God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. That's why Prabhupada's books will be the guidebooks for thousands of years. Why? Because Prabhupada put the Vedic knowledge into very systematic, very concise way, where modern people also can understand and correlate to the day-to-day affairs currently. We can correlate. You see the Prabhupada purport. In this purport also, Prabhupada clearly writes, very perfectly he mentions, Brahmanas, they are busy in spiritual matters, religious matters, guiding the society. But whenever there is a disturbance in the society, they cannot remain silent. See how Prabhupada has given the dynamics of this Varnas. It is not some caste system or Brahmana will remain Brahmana only and then Brahmanas. No, not like that. Prabhupada is explaining that dynamics in the system also, how it was well balanced, how it was the only way to really run the society perfectly. Prabhupada has many places. Prabhupada is explaining this point, Varnashrama system is importance, how we can try to do something now also. Prabhupada is explaining that and correlating to the earlier Purana stories to the modern things. So we can understand this. So King Vena story is also example of that. King Vena was a corrupted king, hypocritic king. So he was killed by the Brahmanas. But Brahmana generally doesn't enter into all this killing in the society and all that administering and those society matters. But they have to take the charge of it, looking at the overall well-being of the citizens, people, because otherwise this will not continue. Human race cannot continue without having good organization or samstha, we call it, like Varnashrama. So Prabhupada explained that Brahmana intervened. They killed the Kshatriya, so-called Kshatriya. You are not pure, you are not real Kshatriya, so-called Kshatriya. And they did not just ended up killing it. They will see the responsibility, see the how Brahmanas were having always a good intention about everybody in the society. So then they churned the body thighs of the King Vena, and then they, there was some personality came, some demonic personality again. Then it was again they churned the King Vena's thighs, and then King Prutu, Maharaj Prutu came, was a devotee. Anyway, that story you are not going to discuss. But the thing is, when King Vena was destroyed, there was no king to rule the citizens, and they were the chaos. So Brahmana intervened, and they again brought this king, our King Prutu, and then it was set right. So the matter here is basically we need to understand how the society was well driven under the guidance of Brahmanas. Okay, so we'll just read the Prabhupada's, but again, some second point especially. The saintly, in their elevated condition, Brahmana are called Vaishnavas. There are two types of this we discuss. The saintly persons consider very widely that although King Vena was very sinful, he was born in the family descending from Dhruva Maharaj. Therefore, the semen in the family must be protected by Supreme Personality of Godhead Keshava. As such, the sages wanted to take some steps to relieve the situation. For want of king, everything was being disturbed and turned topsy-turvy. First paragraph also will read. Brahmanas, the topmost section of human society, are mostly devotees. They are generally unaware of the happenings within the material world because they are always busy in their activities of spiritual advancement. Nonetheless, when there is a calamity in the human society, they cannot remain impartial. If they do not do something to relieve the distress condition of human society, it is said that due to such a neglect, their spiritual knowledge diminishes. Although all the sages go to Himalayas for their personal benefit, but Prahlad Maharaj said that he did not want liberation alone. He decided to wait until he was able to deliver the fallen souls of the world. So this is a very clear-cut. Prabhupada explains that Brahmana not has a duty not only to disseminate the knowledge to the people, but if required, they have to intervene in the society. It matters if it is becoming the existential threat. Let's use this word, existential threat of the society. So King Veda case, it was existential threat to the society. In absence of, first of all, in absence of king, society will spoil. That we know. Now also we can see. Of course, there is no king concept here. There is at least prime minister or some minister or president concept is there. So there has to be some leader. Without leader, we are getting into ditch. That's for sure. So if there is a bad leader, anyway we are getting into ditch. If there is a good leader, there is a possibility of we getting survive. That is the way material world works. It's very material world is not very simple thing. So there is always it is tending to get into destruction if we are not following the Vedic knowledge. So that is the importance of Vedic knowledge. So here Brahmanas ought to work towards society also. Say they intervene. So they left their so-called isolated or very they crossed their they said no, there is an intervention need. There are many examples in the Puranas also. One of the example we can recall is where Brahman or Brahmanas they have intervened and set the king order. One of the prominent example is Lord Parshuram. Lord Parshuram was a Brahmana. Of course, he was a sixth avatara, sixth incarnation of the Lord. Let's keep that aside for a moment. But the stories, of course, he was a Lord, so you could see. But the message was basically Brahmanas can intervene and control the society. So Brahmanas should always be in the control of society, either on the background or on the front row. Otherwise, society will be in chaos. That's why Prabhupada, Prabhupada has declared it very clearly, and we are all trying to follow that under the able guidance of Prabhupada's disciples, further our gurus, that we should try to preserve this. We should try to have maximum Brahmanas in the society. So at least ISKCON is taking that responsibility, that the task of creating maximum Brahmana, because without Brahmana, there is no question of peace in the society. So Brahmana means pious, mode of goodness, and of course devotee Brahmana is the real thing. What we have ISKCON, the Vaishnava, basically, it's beyond the Brahmana. So Vaishnava will include Brahmanical quality. So that is to then only society can benefit. So coming back to the example, King Parshurama was not happy with. There was some conflict between Kshatriyas, and his father got killed by some Kshatriyas, some unjust way, and then he was very angry, and then he killed 21 generations of Kshatriyas. 21 generations of Kshatriyas. He was so powerful, although he was Brahmana. Brahmana means generally we say you must be very peaceful, sitting at one place, very, no, but Brahmana had that power. Whatever, mantra power, physical power, mental power, anything. Because ultimately, they were knowledgeable. Even material science also. Brahmanas are knowledgeable in material science also. As we discussed in the starting, that the body of the king Veda was preserved by the power of mantras. By power of mantra, we see rain coming. I mean, then those days. By power of mantra, or the sound itself was used as one of the weapon, very subtle weapon. We are trying to do, as I mentioned, we are trying to do some sonication, ultrasound. Is very gross, very gross. But that time people are using sound. So it's not only sound. In fact, just to mention, because we are in the modern science era, we talk about so many things. Oh, we have nuclear power. We have what this power, that power. This science is. So, what is nuclear power, or what is our fire? Nuclear power basically. So fire and basically light. We can say that it's a manipulation of the energy. So 5 elements: water, earth, air, sound, and of course fire, and of course ether. So five elements, gross elements, we are trying to manipulate. That is what we call as a material science. We use chemicals and produce some effects and some different chemicals and put some energy. We use sound to use some energy. Fire, we are using fire, heating, this, that, trying to have some effects. So air, we use air for transportation of many waves, these, that, magnetic waves, and that. Lot of things are happening. We are also doing, but why we should not believe that in earlier days, those were very advanced and they were knowing even how to use this at a very subtle level. Forget about gross. We are doing at a gross level. We do some experiment in lab, do some chemicals, and with this chemical is produced. Oh, yes, yes. But they were so expert. They use sound and very subtle elements. Sound is a subtle element that way compared to the earth or chemical, right? That we can easily understand. Water, we are trying to use water for some purpose, okay? But say producing electricity or some chemical effect. But at a molecular level and at a very subtle level, there will be much more higher impactful convergence, impactful manipulation of those five elements. And they can produce huge impacts, huge effects, which we cannot even conceive. Why it should be difficult to believe that? When Vedic sciences say, or we here in the Puranas, that people, they were Rishis Munis or even Kshatriya kings, they used to use all those big weapons, mass killing weapons, but they are not only mass killing, they are precise also. They will kill only that person or that group of geographical location. They're very subtle and very precise, very responsible weapons. That's why currently we use nuclear bomb. I mean, it kills everybody. We don't have that preciseness. We don't have that precise. We are trying to do some precise, nowadays there's some wars going on here and there. So we had that precise attack on that particular building. There is terrorists got killed. Yes, that's there. So we are also looking. So why we should not accept that in earlier days they were much more advanced, and why we should be thinking that we are only advanced? It's a hypocrisy of the modern science. Okay, so we should be very logical, and that's why our Vedic sciences and teaches us, tells us that yes, there are better science prevailing earlier, and we should actually use that. We should actually respect that. We should try to use. Of course, as a devotee, we are not much interested in all this. That's not Prabhupada never mentioned, oh, you get into all that. But we should know what is happening around, and we should know what is the importance of our Vedic science, even at material level also. But ultimately, we are devotees. So once we are at a devotional under the shelter of Lord, all the protection comes. That's not the issue. But Prabhupada mentions that. Prabhupada has not kept any stone unturned in the modern context also. He has explained everything, how medical science were there earlier, how is current medical science or how gross it is, this science, that science. Because the currently the who controls the society, political leaders and the scientists. Now, if they are not really perfect, how society will be perfect? So that is why Prabhupada has always, very put a very in critic way how modern science should take, learning from the Vedic science, which are very perfect. So Prabhupada has not kept any stone unturned that way by explaining the whole context. And of course, our devotee is basically in devotional service, but then we should know all this, and then we should, in context, we should use this knowledge also. So the story is basically, so we will sort of conclude here. The discussion point today was King Ivena's story we just reviewed. And he was killed and Brahmanas intervened, which says that Varnashrama system was not just dynamic, was not just static, or this, you are Brahman, you are Kshatriya throughout life, no, or throughout years and years, and it's not based on birth. So there was the dynamics based on quality. It was based on the quality, purity of the soul, purity of the person, and then there are dynamics. Brahmana can intervene, Kshatriyas can intervene, Vaishyas, and ultimately the purpose here is to run the society so that the Lord is satisfied. Varnashrama system mean to satisfy the Lord. How Lord will be satisfied? By doing his devotional service. But devotional service cannot be done if society is in chaos. or the wrong people are in charge of society, which is becoming nowadays slowly. It will be difficult in going further to even do whatever we are doing now in the spiritual life. We don't know. Of course, Lord's mercy is there. We can do everything, but then things are becoming this way. I mean, it's becoming worrisome that they don't want to teach Bhagavad Gita in the syllabus in India, and they don't want to say that cow is a cow is a very holy animal. Cow is animal means they say it's an animal like a dog or it's a cat, and what is so great about cows? This thing, but these are the demonic people are coming now in India itself. I have seen in the recently in the YouTube video that person is very responsible person. He's telling I treat cow as a normal animal, and why one should not eat the cow. I mean, this is horror. So anyway, these things are happening. We need not worry about it. We should continue our devotional service under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and his devotees and disciples and our gurus, and rest is Lord's will, Lord's wish. So, but the point here is dynamics. There was the dynamics of Varnashram. It was well designed, and it is really good if we can follow it to whatever extent. So then King Vena and then King Pruthu Maharaj has to come in the future shlokas, and we'll hear that story also as we go further. And then ultimately the whole law and order are restored. So this is the very dynamics. Purana stories are very, they give a lot of learning, and we can see in the current context how they are applicable. And we can only release those stories and try to apply wherever it is, and then ultimately increase our devotion. So that was the discussion point today. So a little bit more on Varnashrama we discuss. Whatever Prabhupada's brought that point, I was just trying to put it. Prabhupada has explained. So this is from today's discussion. So any questions, comments, devotees, please let's discuss. Before that, I can see His Grace Uttam Damodar Prabhuji has graced us in joining today's discussion. So maybe Prabhuji can add and enlighten us further before on this topic, and then we can get into question answer. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Hitesh, Madhav Prabhu, for the wonderful explanation. Very nicely said. If the society is going out of control, then Brahmanas will take control of it. Here we see the Brahmanas taking care or taking control from King Vena. And in the past also, he very nicely explained about Parshuram, the sixth incarnation, where he killed 21 generations of Kshatriyas. So Brahmanas continue to guide the society, which is very, very important, and how Varnashrama Dharma is so important for us to follow. So I have no corrections, Prabhu, only appreciation for whatever you spoke so nicely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Prabhuji, for your comments. So any questions, comments from the devotees, we can discuss, and then otherwise we can close the session once we discuss those questions, if any. So if there are no question, comments, then we'll like to close the session. But thanks for joining in the early morning from your busy schedule. And please continue joining this session at 8 o'clock Srimad Bhagavad Gita on every day. And thanks once again. So we'll close the now. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
We are closing the session. Hare Krishna.